Checking my data rate 1 second, making sure that the let's see. And good morning, everybody. Starting up in just 1 second. Hi, Donna. What's up, Carl? Be up in just 1 second. Check one more thing. 5 more secs, and we'll be there. And we're back. All right. Hi, chat room. Hey, Hal Bakery. Hey, Edward. What's happening, Milkman Norm? Minecraft P. Edward Brayman, good to see you. Sound is low. Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. We will get that fixed in uno momento. 1 second. Where's audio? There it is. We'll turn that guy up. See if that helps. Oh, I see. It's that guy. All right. Should do it, hopefully. Check 1. Very low audio. Okay, good to know. For some reason, it's not stereo right now, which is peculiar. I'll check that 1 moment. And that's because wire was removed. That's that should solve part of it. Is that a little better, guys? Something got bumped. It happens. Okay, and dun, 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 dun. All right. Hi, everybody. There we go. Sounds fine. Good. Everybody, yes, it's improved. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Loud and clear. Yeah, one of my cables got gacked out. Indeed. You're back in place, at least temporarily. We'll see. Hold on. Moving my camera. And this little guy. Right on. And then this fella. All right. And hopefully these guys. There we go. All right. Live stream health is yellow quality wise, but I don't know why. Still haven't figured that out. Okay, stream status, current upload. I don't understand. Like, my upload speed's supposed to be great, and it's just not. Just did low internet bandwidth, which is just ridiculous. I don't understand. I've tried to fix it again and again, but it's visible. You can hear me. It should be fine. Have you seen that? There is a touring show hologram of Roy Orbison. I have not. That would be a bit weird. Although I have seen that ELO is touring again, and I think it has everything to do with just Guardians of the Galaxy being on. I think we're about to start soon anyways.
Last commercial.
Perfect. Thank you, Lady B. So glad you're here with us.
Seconds.
So glad you're here with us and that you're feeling good. And hi. Now I might need some help in the chat room. It's 5.3 megabits, Carl. Vacillates between 4.5, 4.8, and 7.4. Average upload is 5.6, which should be plenty. I don't get it. How about gun getting fired? Yeah, that's a side set. I would almost do that as a post show.
10 seconds.
I'm one of the people who believes that if you can joke about something, you're probably not doing it. So it's always been a bit ridiculous.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the vibe.
Okay, I might need some help this week, just kind of for starters. If we have any callers that can do this, or maybe even in the chat room. I don't watch, and this is probably going to be some level of sacrilege, blasphemy even. I don't watch Game of Thrones, never have. My mom watched it a little bit. I have some friends who are all up in it and very, they wait with bated breath. And I was kind of the same way with Walking Dead for a stretch of time until they, killed off Steve Ewan's character, and then they lost me. But that's just me. We all have a favorite character in this post-Lost world of television. When they can kill off anybody at any time if they ask for more money or outlive their welcome. But the plot stuff that goes on in Game of Thrones, whenever I start talking about it with a friend who watches it, they start jibber-jabbering at me about minutia and interwoven craziness in the plot, where there is no way I'm going to catch up until, unless I start at the beginning and watch 7 years of shows, right? That's there's no other part of this that where it makes sense to me. Like they're not going to be able to describe it, because what they're going to do is they're going to start with 2 plot points from the very beginning. They're going to go, well, this is the king, this is the queen, and they lost, and they were going to somebody tried to take over, and then what's happening right now is that their chancellor, the lead guy who was supposed to be in charge of the kingdom or whatever, he betrayed somebody else, and they lost the big, and then that's when the dragon showed up. And you're like, get out of here with this stuff. Like, I'll talk to you about it later, right? It's the same thing. Is true, I'm sure, of when I describe The Walking Dead to people, except sometimes I will add a point where, with Walking Dead, where I'll just say, don't watch season 2, right? That's it. You know what I mean? Like, just don't bother. Right? Where you can watch season 1, watch the first episode of season 2, and the last episode of season 2, and then just move on, because it doesn't matter. And there's a couple of other, blank spots. Okay, so point being is that if you binge a show, or you're that interested in a show that you binge or what have you, you get so involved in it that everybody else you're talking to about it who isn't paying as much attention to it or doesn't watch it has a hard time keeping up, right? And yet, almost everybody these days, with rare exception, either has a book series or a TV series or big Marvel fans or what have you, where they are really wrapped up in the density of the storyline. Somebody in your circle can probably describe to you where Thanos came from and why the Infinity Stones are important and why Captain America lived and and why other people didn't and other stuff, and where Ant-Man is on the timeline and all that kind of stuff. And this occurs to me every time I read a tweet or worse, an article in an actual newspaper or magazine that says the Russia storyline is too complicated for people to keep up. This is losing me. I have no grasp on what's going on, so I'm tuning it out because it's all too complicated and it'll all work out later. That's the and I'm being accused by the by the chat room of Rachel Maddowing right out of the gate. Pickles. A lot of people enjoy pickles. Some like sweet, some like salty pickles, dill pickles, what have you, crunchy, what have you, or whatever. And the phrase "in a pickle" has often been used to describe someone who's in hot water, which is interesting because the actual pickling process is cold. But this week, Giuliani used the phrase "in a pickle" to describe. Right, that's the okay. So, point being is that a lot of the general thought and the beltway consideration about the Mueller investigation and the Russian attacks on, I almost said meddling, attacks on our elections have all, they are often described as, well, people in the heartland, people out in, your average American isn't really up on these details and isn't really interested and can't be. And yet, at the same time, almost everybody could describe intricately, in intricate detail, the seventh least important character on Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, the Harry Potter series, the Marvel run, and all that kind of stuff, right? That kind of thing. And a lot of times when you're talking about the politics of this, where you're discussing the middle of it, that's where you get bogged down. So that's why most people describe the beginning of it, how this all started, and what just happened, which might be why you'd be excited and you can kind of join in. They're trying to help you join in right away. And that really goes a long way towards describing where we are with the Mueller investigation, with Trump's interaction with his own attorneys this week, the entrance this week of Donald Trump's accountant. This is for all the people who didn't pay attention in a lot of ways during the entire Prohibition Capone deal, and then at the very end, went, oh, he's busted by his accountant. That's fascinating. The details as they roll out play out in many ways like a television drama, and that's no surprise because news is a ratings-oriented endeavor, especially 24-hour cable news. And in most cases 24/7, and CNN and Fox is MSNBC is like 25/9 and 20, what is it, 24/5, 5.5, I don't know. They start doing lockup about 10 o'clock on Friday night. And but the point being is that there's a lot to the story that reads like a story you're binging, on Netflix or what have you. And there's a lot of subplots to these things that's hard to keep hold of, that in some cases are more infuriating and exciting than the primary storyline. This happens on things a lot. And I will, as we get into the show today, we're going to kind of recap what's been going on just in the last 2 weeks, which really is one of those moments where it feels like a mid-season finale. This was one of the big things that a lot of these shows, especially when they're expensive, as somebody who's been on, at this point in my career, a decent number of television shows that have gone the distance, this whole mid-season finale thing is really catching on, where people have a show that's so sprawling with storylines and so big that they got to kind of tie some stuff up before they can even move on, because just keeping track of it's a pain in the butt. So things like Walking Dead and other shows will have this mid-season finale right before the holidays, and then they're going to have a season finale, 10 weeks later when they come back, right? This right now, it feels like things are starting to get tied up for the mid-season finale, which is exciting. It's in some cases amazing and confusing and heart-pounding, and it has a bit of a cliffhanger aspect to it. But you also know that it's more likely than not, because the show is not getting canceled anytime soon, that there's going to be 10 episodes and an even bigger reveal coming. And this really is, it feels more and more like one of those moments. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to discuss the fact that since Trump's fallout in Helsinki, there has been a very distinct shift towards the public's appreciation of the seriousness of this, and a concurrent kind of B story that's going on that is worse than even people thought. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. You can watch us at halsparks.tv. Go to the stream right now, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be really helpful to us. And thank you, Hal Vickery and Billy Hutchins, for your super chats right now. Awesome. We'll be back right after this. Hi, chat room. Hi. And hi, Julie. You came in a second later, so I had to say hi to you in silent. I didn't think I didn't hear it. Will Trump be destroyed financially? I have a theory about the financial aspect of America, in that if you ever hit $5 million in our economy, aside from alcoholism or drug use or gambling or just a penchant for MC Hammer-like spending, there's no particular reason why you should ever have to fall below that line, even and still live extraordinarily well. The same thing is, I'm sure, true of $25 million or something like that. So that even the licensing aspects of the places that he has, even if he lost Trump Tower and he moved to Montana and had a ranch up there, he would still be a multimillionaire just on the deals that he had made. Also, I have said before that I really do think there is a distinct possibility that it isn't just compromat that the Russians have on him. Because, again, he's a shameless philanderer. Probably his prenup with Melania is, I get to do whatever I want. If you do anything, you're gone and you don't get a penny. I don't doubt that for a second. It's his third wife. If you're already a millionaire and your wife is not, or your spouse is not, I guess this would work both ways, and you're on your third, spouse, your prenup's going to get tighter over time, not looser, about that kind of stuff, especially if you have adult kids who want a piece and you're getting into your doddering years. So I think there's promise, no matter how it goes, when he leaves. I think the concern with Trump, the real worry, is that this guy's going to get a $1 billion golden parachute from Putin just for havoc.
Last commercial, 20 seconds.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. WCPT820.com is the website for listening to all your favorite progressive voices. Don't forget to dial that in. Let's say you're on the road, you're traveling, you want a single source where you can listen to all your favorites, and you have one of those little eighth inch jacks into your thing, or a USB hookup in your rental car. You can do that. That's also helpful. You can tell I travel a lot. Okay, so this is the last 2 weeks. I tweeted a couple days ago. Joan Walsh had said something like on her podcast that she was doing for Salon or whomever. She's like, I know we titled last week Trump's worst week ever, but we're going to have to title this week that, right? And I told her, you should just name the podcast that and save yourself some time. Because the reality is, people, that it's just going to get worse every week for Donald Trump from now until he leaves office. And I feel as comfortable saying that as Michael Avenatti does, stating out loud that the Inquirer and Michael Cohen helped Trump hide a, quote, concerns of a pregnancy. This is when, over the course of the post-Helsinki guild coming off the lily, as it were, where certain Republicans, you know, the Corkers of the world and the Jeff Flakes of the world, who'd already been kind of concerned and disgusted, worried about Donald Trump in general, but were willing to let it slide in exchange for a Supreme Court justice and some tax breaks for their corporate friends, and figured that any damage he did could legitimately be undone and could, when you stack them next to the Iraq War and the destruction of our economy by the Bush administration as they went out the door, you know, they're running a genuine balancing scheme where in their own head they're like, well, he can't screw up that bad. You know, there's a limit to how much damage even he can do, and we're checking on him some, and even when it comes to Supreme Court justices, in the case of Kavanaugh, which, by the way, they are dragging out, they are allowing to drag on because they want his confirmation, which they see as inevitable, to happen closer to the election, because they know that the primary reason why evangelicals and a lot of your Bible Belt conservatives will vote for Donald Trump or people who support his priorities, the reason why they do that is to secure the Supreme Court. And so no matter what he does, Russian interference be damned, if he picks someone off the Heritage Foundation or the Federalist Society's list of judges without, you know, attaching his own addendum to it at all, they're in. They will support him because, again, anything he wrecks, they can undo. Anything that he does that they like, they feel like it will set precedent long enough for, in their mind, the American people will get used to it as a new standard. This is their way of waging part of the culture war. That being said, looking back over the post-Helsinki week, where there were a lot of alarm bells coming up because the stuff that he said looks bad in print, and it looks worse when you see the video. And this element where he seems incapable of criticizing Vladimir Putin or the Russian actions, which, again, we found out after the fact. We found out after his post-Helsinki 2.5-hour summit where he met alone with only 2 interpreters with Vladimir Putin, and the Republicans in Congress seem completely uninterested in what he spoke about with Vladimir Putin during that time, even though the Russians, and we'll get to this in a little bit, have started slowly leaking out what they say was agreed to, what they say was allowed, what they say the president signed off on. And the president, because there was no one else present but the interpreters, has no way of rebutting it. They could say literally, the president said that Crimea is all in and that we should grab them by the Ukraine. You know, like, and he would, what in this case is Donald Trump going to say in the face of Vladimir Putin literally lying about the concessions given to him by the U.S. president? Because A, no one was present, and he has more than likely, because of the behavior of this president, he has compromise or bribery promises to this president that are necessary to the securing of Donald Trump's financial legacy after the White House, that are strong enough to make sure that Donald Trump is on the hook, and the hook is set. So there's no point where the president himself has any rebuttal to anything the Russians say happened in that meeting. That anything is on board, right? So, and that's why you don't do that, by the way. That's also why, if you are going to have one of those private meetings, which in the abstract I'm okay with, in terms of you having unilateral meetings in a bilateral setting, like breakout sessions at the UN or at the G6 and those kind of things, to talk about specifics that are special to certain countries within your alliances and different with others, and that you may have industries that are at competition with even your allies. That stuff kind of makes sense, except in the situation where the only one you do it with are violent dictators who kill their opponents, who suicide people, who murder journalists, who send in strongmen into areas you are trying to annex, out of uniform, chaos military actors, to undermine those regimes. Now, the follow-up to this was, and in watching Trump do this or whatever, is we found out that not only had Rod Rosenstein told him about the 12 Russians that were going to be indicted by the Mueller investigation before Donald Trump went, but that Donald Trump insisted that they announce it the Friday before. A lot of us, in leading up to that, it seemed like the Justice Department was kind of firing a shot across the bow at Donald Trump as he went to meet with Vladimir Putin. And the premise of it was that this guy, somebody inside there that Donald Trump would call the deep state, is saying, hey, man, you cannot go into this, meeting thinking you're going to make a deal outside the boundaries of, U.S. interests and get away with it. We're going to let you know right away that we're on the trail of these guys and that what they did was serious, and you better know this. And it seemed like that for a lot of people, like Friday and Saturday especially before it. And then we find out that Trump knew about it the Monday before, spent all week still calling it a witch hunt, saying that the Russian thing was a hoax. He's continued to say that, even though he's had information for over a year and a half that specifically said that this was going on, that it was serious, that it wasn't, that even though they favored Donald Trump to win in this, it wasn't because they liked him or his policies. It was because they wanted to sow discord in the United States, undermine our democracy, and they may very well, in the next round of things, purge voter rolls, go for the other party, basically sow discontent in the country by manipulating our elections. And that at some point you might be on the receiving end of this spear. You might want to pay attention to this. That's right. Billy in our chat room says he's had the info since January 6, 2017. And all during this time, he has not just called the collusion idea a hoax or a witch hunt, but the fact that Russia involved themselves in our elections, a hoax. He's repeatedly said this. He's defended it even after he knew the fact as it could be a lot of people. He even said it in his walk back after Helsinki. So he comes back from Helsinki. He gets a firestorm, which apparently he was surprised to hear. And he was shocked, I tell you, shocked that he hadn't heard, that people were upset that he was so deferential to Vladimir Putin. And so he walked it back, reading from a script that looked like a hostage video. And even in that, crossed out words, wrote in no collusion, and then had to ad-lib. Could be a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there. There's just, it's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people affecting our election, and it's really just the game that gets played. We got to take a break. When we come back, we find out this week, and many of us have known this kind of all along because it's been in the news, but at least it reached the surface of the news cycle this week, that the Russians not only are attacking people like Claire McCaskill ahead of the 2018 midterms, but have put malware into the electrical grid of the United States of America. They have Russian state-sanctioned hackers have attempted multiple times to insert malware that would allow them to cripple the U.S. electrical grid. We'll be back. It's the Housemarks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yeah, so sorry about if there's buffering. I'm not seeing buffering, so it might be just on your side. Yeah, we're going to get to the emolument stuff, Denise. Excellent for bringing that up. Again, this is where it's like that Game of Thrones thing, like, holy smokes, just keeping track of this stuff. Even, even like the Pizzagate level nonsense that was thrown around about Hillary Clinton and Podesta and all these guys, and yet the people who were most just vehement, like swearing up and down that Hillary Clinton is a demon who boils children and eats them, whatever, all look the other way when there are case after case after case of sexual assault in these detainment facilities, that there's every sign that predators are using this place as a, because they can get hired in some of these places with nary a background check. There are kids who are never going to see their parents again that are being fostered and adopted out, and some that just have vanished from the system. If this was, it's kind of like Bob Menendez saying this week, if this was Obama who'd done this, I'd be peeling you off the Capitol ceiling. The same thing is true of all this, like what would be the sort of Pizzagate level stuff that is going on in these child separation facilities. So let's see. The grid goes down, state of emergency declared, election day canceled. What are the odds? Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think they're going to do it around election day. If they do that, it's too overt. What they do is they get in, let's say, what you do is you tip the balance towards Republicans for a period of time. And then on the next round, you don't tip the balance towards Democrats. You just let it break down like it really would happen. Then you start sowing discontent by shutting down parts of the power grid or jamming things up in different parts of the country in areas where you've done psychological research to find out what the level of governmental distrust, or you can't, you only do it in states where the power grid is closely controlled by state and federal